And just so everybody knows, Dan Adams retired. And presently I'm the vice chair. We will reorganize here shortly. If you would, just, I'll remind everybody we're being recorded. So anything you say, just everybody else will be able to find out what you said too. So, yeah, thank you. You want to stand for pledge? Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Secretary, we have roll call.
Andrew Melson.
Present.
Dan Osborne.
Present.
Barry McManaway.
Present.
And John Christ. Present. Also note that our building commissioner, Steve Gorski, is sitting at the table too.
We've got a lot of important people out there in the audience too. All right, reorganization of the board. And we can start with the secretary, which I think that's a no-brainer.
I'll
So,
nominate John Christ for secretary.
I'll second that.
no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, for president. Anybody have a nomination?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we nominate Barry McManaway for president.
We'll also second that.
And I appreciate the nomination, I think, but if no discussion,
No.
and I'll avoid any. So all in favor?
Aye.
Let me sign saying aye. Aye. And opposed? Motion carries. All right, for vice chair, vice president,
They would nominate Danny Osborne.
I'll second that. Any discussion? If not, any approved, the sign saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. All right, everybody's had a chance to look at the minutes. If there's any discussion there, any changes, amendments approved.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as stated.
Okay, I got a
Second.
motion and a second. Same, all in favor, sign saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. All right. Sign this and pass it around. All right. First petition, case number 2023-B17, 910 West Shore, table from November 16th BZA meeting. Mr. Easterday, I believe you're
Good
right.
evening, yeah, I am here on this one. Well, at the November 16th meeting, after discussion, Dan Adams said he really wanted to see a set of plans for this because he just wasn't quite sure what it looked like. And so we have gone back to the architect and we've had him develop a complete set of plans. And
Looks like it.
well, here they are. What I've done is I've gone to that set of plans and I've extracted out of that what I thought was Dan's concern, not knowing at that time that Dan wasn't coming back. But it's not this two little pages.
It's already here.
Yes. The whole footprint is still here. So we're not increasing the footprint of the building at all. The only thing that we're doing is we're building out the second floor in the front and the back.
So this right here, this dormer area is new. Is that roof?
That's
There's nothing
correct.
there.
That's correct. So if you look at the second,
That's going towards your.
if you look at the second page on this, and it's also on the plans, I pulled it out there. The area that they're working on is this area right here, and this area right here, front and back.
What about this here? That's an addition.
That's that area, but it doesn't change the footprint. We're basically taking the roof off and putting that on the second floor, building on the second floor.
He's saying it's the same footprint
Yes, yeah, I
going
know,
up,
yeah,
but that's coming out.
that's coming out, but this is gonna be higher than it presently is, correct?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
because
So
right
that-
now
that-
it's
that
not.
is- That is being built up too, in addition to the front.
That's correct. It's now, basically it's a story and a half at this location, and those, it's got a,
But this is already done.
no,
All
Oh,
that is new.
Doesn't run the length of the house.
right.
It's only-
so there's no height variance for this?
That's correct. That's correct.
There's no need to, because it's 30.
It's already
35
got,
feet.
it's already got 2 story on it,
At that
Okay.
point, it's already,
As long as we're below 35.
but it's already 2 story.
at that point, not the whole house. I don't want to deceive you guys.
What's the ordinance call for there, Steve, on the, can they raise up? I mean, I know building on the same footprint, have to have variance, to raise it up to 2 stories, but it's already a 2 story partially, and they're,
Because you're adding to the non-conformance, so it
Adding
needs
to
a
it.
variance.
West side of the house, it's kind of a 1 story with a flat roof. That's going to be raised up to the 2 stories variance.
Yeah, that's what I was
So-
referring to.
right, so you would
Also,
still
'cause-
require a variance for the height,
No,
being it's built on the, not,
See this, Andrew? And that height carries all the way back.
The height carries all the way back, but that dormer does.
Right.
and they're just matching the height of the previous structure.
Addition on the lakeside over the flat roof, that's gonna be,
sticking out further from there.
go up. Presently, this is a flat roof here.
That's not lakeside though, right?
Oh, the street side.
Yeah,
Street
yeah,
side.
right, yeah,
Okay.
right, yeah, so it's just an extension of this coming out over this.
Yeah.
Which is we're still on the same footprint,
Yes.
we're just adding. That
That's correct.
addition all the way back.
That's building on the second floor.
The lakeside isn't really going up any higher than it is. So right. The roof line.
Overhang's different than currently.
No,
And the setbacks are the side yards existing now, not gonna change any with any of the addition on,
that's exactly correct.
so we're not making it more non-conforming. Correct?
As far as footprint, you're not.
Well, I mean, hard footprint, but you're still going past the footprint upstairs,
Well, we're building up,
building up, not out.
not out.
Okay. I was just misunderstanding a little bit because I thought they were,
Footprint state.
okay.
Who's doing the work?
Honestly, don't know. Apologize, I don't know.
So if we're building on the same footprint, but we got a variance requested for the north setback at 3.1 feet. And the south side, 6.3 feet.
No, my intent was just to indicate to you what it is.
Oh, okay, because it said request variances and it talks about building the second floor, but then it went on with the, under the same requested variance. So I didn't- Right.
So you just say.
Right, right.
The variance is to build on a to build an addition on a non. Or footprint, excuse me, footprint.
Building addition going up.
there's a statement on here, and I know Dan Adams had some concerns, and I do too. What this front yard setback to present footprint, if required, what exactly that means.
Well, since we're building on a non-conforming footprint, I didn't know whether or not the front yard present footprint was conforming or not. That's the reason I said that in the petition. I think it's conforming, because I ran pipe lines back and forth and it looked to me like it was conforming. But I didn't want to get here and then find out that it wasn't.
From the house, I believe the board previously granted a variance for the deck because the deck is a little bit less than 25 foot from.
That's why that's why I did that, because I wasn't sure. But it doesn't change. That line doesn't change.
I have a couple concerns. These are directly personal since I adjoin this property to the north. And I'm curious how construction is going to occur on the north side without egress or easement onto my property.
My response would be, I think they need to talk to you, be sure everybody is square as to how that's going to occur, or they need to stay on their own property.
Well, there have been issues in the past where that's not occurred.
We'll convey that.
Okay. There's also another issue. The stairway on the deck that goes down from the deck down to the yard. There's no railings on that, on those stairs there. And I believe there are certain places where it is more than 3 foot from the deck. And it's been that way since that deck was built.
And it's a stairway down.
The stairway from the deck.
That should have been addressed by the building inspector.
That
at the
should have been
time.
building inspector.
Building inspector.
It
should
was,
have brought
but that
up,
was
yeah.
when
Oh, we're in.
DeWitt was
Oh,
building inspector.
Wow.
3 days.
but it is,
Okay.
it is something should be corrected, though.
That's
Safety
my
issue,
way.
if nothing else.
We'll get that squared
I
away.
see, you can see it right here, this one shot. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just plain as day. There's no rail.
Yeah. And there never has been.
Right, yeah, that should
We'll
be
get that squared away.
I would appreciate that, because I mean, right in the middle of changing building inspectors now even.
And then we had
Yeah.
Jenny was temporary. She was in there too. I don't know, that.
She was acting as.
That was before.
She was
that
acting
her
as
though,
building
right?
That was
commissioner,
before her.
That was before
Okay,
her,
this was-
yeah.
Oh, really? You know,
Yeah, this would have been
Yeah, that's been-
3.5 years ago,
Yeah, to 4 years, something like that, yeah,
4 years. It was during COVID.
yeah.
man, I'm sorry.
There's no new variance, this is just a continuation of the current. That variance is not.
And there's nothing being put on there to change the pervious, impervious, I'm assuming. Any other questions or concerns? Not, I'll go to the building commissioner. I mean, you've looked at this. You'll be dealing with it. You have any concerns?
I don't have any concerns. They're getting the variance. It's a non-conforming structure because of the current setbacks. So they're adding to the non-conforming structure, but going up, not changing the footprint.
Not, if any citizens or audience, I know we got some people online, but anybody here has anything to question, ask, or whatever, go ahead.
My name is Randy Somers. I have a property just south of the property. And my concern was just the lakeside, that they weren't going up for that, because I was confused about the yard setback footprint it required, the if required part. Like if it's in a plan, there wouldn't be any need for if required, or that kind seems like open-ended. I just want to make sure what's open-ended when we leave tonight.
Yeah, and that's the reason I asked about that as far as going,
We're
but
not
yeah,
changing that.
yeah. Anybody else having,
Probably people
Anybody online?
But I don't see anything.
if not, then we'll, guess we'll go to findings of facts. You ready? Number one, like I say, if you agree or disagree, if you disagree at any time, that you'll have to vote no on this, so you'll know as well. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Agree.
I agree. Mr. Chris?
I agree, provided that they stay within their footprint.
That's Mr. Gorshy's place to make sure that is done. All right, number two is adjacent property. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner.
Agree.
Agree.
And I agree.
I agree.
Three is practical difficulty. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. The situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction on economic gain.
Agree.
Agree.
Sergeant, Chair agrees.
Agree.
So at this time, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve this variance with clarification on the if required portion stating that footprint on the front yard setback will also not change.
You get that?
Yeah, I'm working.
So the motions for case number 2023-B17 for 910 West Shore Drive.
Got first and second. Any discussion? If not,
Okay, I'll make sure, what is the motion?
It is to approve the north yard setback of 3.1 feet at the nearest point, south yard at 6.3 feet, and the front yard at its current footprint.
that it stays as the current,
Yes.
okay, because it's not actually variance required on this, but yeah. We got the motion. You get ready, just let me know. All right, got a first and second, so. All in favor? Say by sign of yea. No. I tell you. Any opposed? Same sign. So approved unanimous.
You can take.
Okay.
One here. Next case.
All right, next case is 2023-B21 at 220 Coolidge, Culver, Indiana. For 8.07 overrun to development to remove the existing dilapidated structure and build a new single-family residence that extends beyond the current footprint of the existing structure. And you are presenting that, I think.
Yes, yeah. First of all, congratulations on all of the officers in their position. Kind of fun to switch seats and move around a little bit. I get
Thank you.
comfortable there.
Thank you. I assume.
Yeah,
We're gonna go out and celebrate afterwards.
yeah, sure, yeah. that
Yeah.
sounds great. We've been here before on these two lots. We've made some adjustments to the designs based upon your guys' comments in the past. And hopefully those are kind of meet some of the concerns that you all had. This should be similar to what was submitted with. So when we were here last, we had some designs on these lots. So just to kind of refresh, the north lot is 44 feet wide and the south lot is 50 feet wide. So they're contiguous. The south lot is conforming. The north lot is not conforming. The north lot has a current residence that's on it. The south lot does not. So the north lot variance had, or request for variance has one that the south lot does not, in terms of building outside of the original footprint for the building that's there. So the new variance request, just considering the north lot, is going to, we've narrowed the design down a couple of feet to help fit on the lot. And before you remember it, it met the north side yard setback of 10 feet. We're now asking for a variance there on the north line from 10 feet down to 8 feet. And on the south line, it was 3 feet. We're asking for a variance there from 10 feet down to 7 feet. So we've kind of moved the house a little bit north, taken some of the width off of it, and that kind of helps to center it in the middle of that lot. So the variance request would be to build beyond the normal or the existing footprint, and for a north side yard setback from 10 feet down to 8 feet, and a south side yard setback from 10 feet down to 7 feet. So that's for that particular lot. And prior to, there was also a variance request for impervious surface. Changing the size of the building has removed the need for that. So we have all the impervious surface that's required.
53.3%
On the north lot, that's correct.
on the north lot. And that's all we're looking at right now.
Yeah.
North lot, so.
And then the previous, we've kind of wanted to look and see how they both work together, but also consider them separately. So I've kind of tried to give you both diagrams so that you can kind of see how they work together, but also analyzed individually.
We've discussed, and just for this too, remind you that the front porch entrance steps do count on the footprint of the structure.
Well, and that's where, as we go through a technical review or anything, we can work through that. In terms of the front yard setback, we redrew this to clearly show what those steps were. The previous steps were far too wide. They were out of whack with the design. They weren't in line with the scale. So these are far more in line with scale. And there was a question on that, and as we go through a farther design, if we determine that that does not fit within the setback that's required based upon the other setbacks that are there, then we would come back and ask for, if we decide to do that, or make it conform. But tonight, we just wanted to talk about these side yard setbacks and make sure that we get those, but understanding that in terms of the front steps, that's an analysis that, you know, we can take on as we finalize the design from that standpoint. And the setbacks also are from the eaves, not from foundation. So,
Yeah, that was my next question.
so if you're looking at foundations, it's really 9 feet off of the
eaves are 1 foot.
eaves are 1 foot, yes.
So where do we start with this and where are we now?
Yeah.
I mean, as far as what originally when you came in
Yeah.
and one of the variants.
The variances, a major concern that I thought you guys had was the proximity of the two new developments to each other. So we were talking about needing to have easements that run through there for maintenance easements and restrictive covenants that nothing else could be built inside there. But there was the proximity of the two new buildings to each other. We tried to make it so that we weren't infringing any of the outside boundaries. So, and to some degree, we narrowed the north design that we're talking about from what it was, I think it was 30 feet down to 27 feet. And then also moved it just a little bit north to give more space between the two new buildings. And moving 8 to 8 feet off of the north boundary is still 3 or 4 feet further off the boundary than that the north house is off of that same boundary. So these still have a substantial amount of space between the neighbors. You know, for this north lot, from the north neighbor, there's a substantial amount of space, more space than any of the other surrounding homes. And from what will be the new house to the south of it, we were at 11 feet and now we would be at, from eaves, it'll be 15 feet. So we really added that space there in between the two homes, and that really mimics the rest of the outlying block and the proximity of houses to each other.
I mean, I appreciate the changes and everything, but I still got myself as far as building new homes when you take a house off, I mean, you've got a new home and you're still wanting to build it in what the ordinances allow. So, I mean, you're wanting a variance before you build it. And your design is designing it to need a variance.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the defining facts, you know, is as far as and I can read here what I'm talking about, as far as when you talk about the situation shall not be self-imposed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we look at, and I don't like to use the word hardship, but you know, there's got to be a good reason.
Right.
In other words, either for the lot or for whatever, but
Yeah.
if we're looking at building a house on a lot that's not going to keep you from building to meet those ordinances, you know, whatever, it's only because the house that you've designed is bigger than what the ordinances require.
And
So to me, it's self-imposed.
right.
And
I would say that I'm sorry, was there more to that?
No.
Okay. The practical difficulty that we run into in designing the house, and it has to be a real practical difficulty, not a perceived one. And it is very practical in that you can measure the difference in the value of the home with or without certain factors and meeting or not meeting certain factors in the ordinance. That being that if the house has to fit within the ordinance, it would require it either to not have a garage or not have a first floor bedroom. And we can have professional testimony, you come in and say, if you build a house and you do not have a garage, that has a very real economic factor to it that will reduce it. So it's not perceived, it's real.
Right,
And if the ordinance requires you to build a home that is significantly adverse or different to the other surrounding residences, that would also have a very negative economic impact on that home. If the ordinance is met, this house would be 24 feet wide. The house that's there now is 25 feet wide. The house that's there now wouldn't meet those setback requirements. And it would be drastically different from anything else around it, which would drive down the economic value of the home by itself. So
Right.
those are
right,
real economic hardships.
right. Economic hardship is not something that this board is going to be looking at as far as economically, what you can be able to make more money on or what it's going to be valued at it more. I mean, not saying I understand, I do. But at the same time, I mean, we're here to give a variance for a practical reason as far as why that ordinance can't be met. And your practicality is either money or because you can't have a garage. And I don't have a garage because my lot's not big enough to put on there. And by sitting in this chair or sitting on the planning commission, wouldn't even approve myself being able to put a garage on my lot, even though I want one.
Well, I guess it would depend upon the amount of variance that it would be required in order to have such a garage, in terms of, here we're talking about a few feet on either side, as opposed to, I guess the degree of non-conforming, I think, has a very in it as well.
Well, that'd be the option of this board, but anybody else have any comments on that?
Yes, I do. I have two. What sort of easements are going to be written into these two properties as far as between the properties as far as access? I mean, since each of them are going to be less than 10 foot between them,
Right.
7 foot to the house on 220, and 8 foot on the unaddressed property. What sort of things are going to be written?
We had a common access easement that would be placed in there that would allow for access to both of the sides of the house that we put in, that would run with the property. So we have an easement that's in there. We hadn't necessarily determined if we would need to have that put in place with the current setbacks being enough room to be able to maintain the houses as it is. But we have prepared that common use or common access easement to allow for that.
Then that brings me to my second question. And this is addressed towards the house that's on the unaddressed property, the house that's south.
The vacant property, yeah.
Yes, the vacant property. I noticed that you did not reduce the size of that house in terms of width. It still is at its current 30 feet.
Correct.
So what if you reduce that to 27 foot wide? That would gain you 3 feet.
Yep.
That would then allow you to move the house on the north 2 foot south to meet your 10-foot variance.
Mhm.
You would, in essence, end up losing 1 foot in the middle between those two because you'd have to move the north house south 2 feet.
Yep.
You'd gain 3 feet because you could keep the house on the vacant lot. You could keep its south boundary where it is, but you could move.
Bring
And
it in a little.
then you would have different setbacks in between, but if you put in an agreement as far as easements written into that.
And I've already prepared the easement.
Mr. Secretary, and I'm gonna have to butt in here for a minute because right now we are looking only at the north lot. And we can't look at what you're gonna do with the south lot because we're trying to approve or disapprove a variance on the north lot without even having really to even look at the south lot yet. We can't be building the north lot and provisions of what the south one's gonna be because everything that you do on the north lot could change logistically
Right,
for what you might be approved on the south lot.
sure.
You may be creating hardship for the south lot by approving what you're wanting on the north lot, that's what I'm saying.
I understand that.
Yeah.
That
So, I mean,
I
right
was
now,
introducing.
you've got a property line that's established. If we're gonna look at that north lot, we're gonna see why you need to put a 7-foot setback between that property line.
Right,
Right.
Yeah.
And,
that's what the request is.
right. And as far as the 8-foot and all that below that is not even in consideration right now under this lot.
Correct, yeah,
Because we can only look one lot per time.
yeah, that's fine. And I'm fine to brainstorm and find a way that allows me to bring my client's design to you guys in a way that fits the parameters of the findings of fact. I think that the nature of the non-conforming lot with the topography of the lot and what's there and the highest and best use of that lot for the neighborhood, for the town in general, is to be able to have those two in a way that is feasible for a reasonable design in today's age. And that allows for that 1-car garage with a first floor bedroom. In order to meet that, it's at that 27 feet. If we're able to table the north lot discussion and take notes on the south lot discussion and redraw that and move some things around in a way that makes everybody happy, I'm happy to take that back to my client. I think it's completely reasonable to say, make them both 27 feet. But I'm not the designer and I'm not the requester. I'm the presenter. So I think that makes sense to go back and say, look, let's see if we make them both 27 feet, move them around a little bit. And I've just been trying to keep with the design of, I understand it. I'm not saying because of one variance you get another, but there is case law on supporting the design between an economic factor that changes if you conforming to the ordinances changes one residence compared to all the other residences, that's a hardship. And so there's case law on that. And that's why I make that argument. Now, I don't think that's a very strong argument to completely obliterate the side yard setbacks and run up to the limits. But here, if we have a very small, varying degree of change, and we put in place some things that make you guys comfortable in terms of maintenance, easements, we can put those in place. And then that kind of gives the town what they need, find to build what he wants, and then be pretty conforming with everything that's required in the neighborhood and as a whole.
So you meet the front and rear yard setbacks to start with, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
In the rear, on both of these structures, just, I know we're only talking about one right now. Is the garage run across the entire structure or is it only part of it?
Just half the
It's
structure.
only part of the
Yeah.
backside.
Correct.
Okay.
So that allows for that main floor bedroom, an access way and a main floor bedroom all in one.
Is this a 1-car garage?
Yes.
So let me ask you about the interior design on, are they very similar?
To the best of my knowledge.
Well, I guess I'm
think the layout-
getting ahead of myself because I'm talking about two things and we're talking about
Right.
one thing now. And I think from what you're gathering, what we want some changes.
Right, yeah, and that's where, in terms of what I'm hearing on the north lot, some of the changes are kind of incumbent upon some changes on the south lot.
Right.
And so, as we go through and we say, okay, we're gonna, table the discussion on the variance request for the north lot, discuss the south lot and say, this is what we think helps to make everything work. I'm happy to do that because I want to put it or get it into a design that you all feel comfortable with. I think we're getting pretty close in terms of being able to show you guys the numbers that you were looking for and cleaning things up and make it a little bit more easy to understand and see. And I know that we still have some questions to go over with Steve in terms of those front steps and how that all works and questions about following topography of versus building steps on versus sidewalks that follow the soil topography and those types of things and how those play into each other. So I don't think that we're necessarily done with tonight. So coming back isn't a concern, but
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern is that I know on your side of it, it's hard to do one lot without knowing what you're gonna do with the other.
Yeah,
And I understand that completely. But keep in mind, I mean, I know you were talking about tabling the north lot and going to the south lot, but do you want us to still go ahead and address the south lot now? Or you would rather go back and try and make both of them to where they might? Well, you know what we're requesting.
right. Yeah, I
And-
mean, I'm picking up on Mr. Chris' suggestions and understand kind of how.
I mean, myself, if I was in your shoes, I would probably rather go back and design both lots.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And that way, when you present one lot at a time,
Yeah.
which you're gonna be required, but then
Well, what I was
you
saying
wouldn't,
more
you
is,
wouldn't be looking at saying, all right, you get the north lot where you think that we might be, I can't say.
no,
now,
sure.
But,
I think that it's.
but I don't want you to come back with the south lot if you already agreed. I mean,
Right.
if you want to
I'm
do it,
I'm assuming that we're gonna table both. So my thought was.
I'm assuming
that-
you are, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna request to table both. But what I wanted to do was allow us to move on and talk about that south lot, which I think is a short discussion, now, 'cause we've been talking about it to some degree. But say, okay, understanding where the concerns with the north lot and some ideas that Mr. Chris put out. And then say, okay, let's discuss the south lot, and if we're able to move those things around a little bit, where does that put things? And then table both requests. Go back to the drawing board, draw them each with those notes added to and put on there to reflect that, to see kind of what it looks like. The design from street is going to stay the same, and I believe that the design on the interior is very nearly identical on both homes. So like I said, they're Alan and Chris, so I don't know how they're going to flip to who gets the bigger one, but if they
Yeah.
had them not the
Well, the
same
interior
size, so.
doesn't bother me one way or the other. I mean,
Well, I was just, the reason I asked that is, okay, if you have 30 feet and 27 feet in their same interior, you can go down to 27 feet on the 30 foot,
exactly,
right?
You can
right.
go to 20.
But again, we're considering the two, yeah. no.
Right, I know,
Right,
and
right,
like I
right,
said,
right.
he said he's wants to
And that's
table these,
yeah.
which I think that's in his best interest with us right now.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we're, with this design, when we were here last time, we're much closer now. We're moving much closer to the right side of getting something that makes sense and is agreeable by the board. So
Yeah.
I want to continue to move in that direction.
And I mean,
The south lot, right, if it's reduced by 2 feet in width, it doesn't require variance.
pardon,
The south lot. If it's
The south-
reduced by 2 feet, there's no variance required.
right.
Was there, I'm sorry. My bad. Just a point of clarity, was there a variance that was required on the south lot coming into this, or are you reducing it?
We haven't even looked at the south
Yeah,
lot.
that's why I,
Yes, there is
Yeah,
yes, to answer your
Right.
question.
Separate request.
Yes, it's a separate request.
yeah.
But I'm glad,
We haven't
yeah,
hit it,
yeah.
that's why the only reason.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
and that's the reason I brought this up originally, but yeah. But my only concern, I mean, when you do that, keep in mind that I am pretty adamant, I'm not saying that that's the way I would vote, but I'm pretty adamant about building new homes on a lot to require variance prior to it being built. You see what I'm saying? Because, I mean, I know there's cases, topography, you have wetlands on certain lots that you can't build on, you know,
Right.
because of it. Sometimes it's on a hill and you got down here, naturally makes a difference. But these lots are flat, everything else, and I
Oh,
just have,
no, these lots are highly,
No, they're not
It's not
flat.
they're not flat at all.
They're
And
not.
that's part of the,
well, I realize they're on that hill in there too,
Yeah.
yeah. I
And that's-
forgot about that,
well,
but yeah,
that's part of the rear access garage, because the front access, it would look right, just based on the topography. Yeah, and I can understand where you're coming from. Like I said, my thought is because of, and I understand you're saying the economic effect is not necessarily as big to you, but that's where I went to case law and studied that and determined that there is some factor there to be able to rely upon. And the width, another major factor was relying upon a drastic difference if the code is met in the surrounding, if it would be out of place in the surrounding
Yeah.
development.
So I'm just trying to get more information for you. I mean, you know, bring up about the topography and everything else as far as when you come in, all that information that I can get, I mean, I would feel more comfortable with it. But yeah, I mean, I would recommend the table it till,
Yeah, we can table them both, and I have a good idea of what we're talking about, and next time I can bring in the access easement that we had in play, or we've designed to allow both to access the center between the two. But again, if you move them a little bit, you'll have quite a bit of distance between the two that may even not require such a thing, so.
If you choose to table these, you'll need a motion.
Right.
We need a specific time
Right.
when you want to table them.
and have you got a time that you want to come back? I mean,
Next meeting would be fine.
next
for me.
meeting,
Is there enough
February?
time for that, Steve?
Oh, on the agenda for the next meeting?
Yeah,
Yes, tabled, so yeah, if I don't have to any legal notices. All right, it's,
usually it's tabled from this meeting, you've got a month for the next meeting, so it allows enough time to get on the next meeting. I was just asking if you had enough time, so if that would give you enough time.
In-house engineer can redraw these to get them.
All right,
And then that may, I mean, if we end up in a spot, we may withdraw requests on one of them if it's conforming, and then adjust some of the
Yeah.
others, so.
Guys.
I appreciate that.
Steve on,
Sure, yep.
and everything goes through Steve
Yeah.
on that.
so
all
the
right,
motion
so
would
at
be to
this
table
time, I
until
entertain a
February
motion
15th.
to table
Make
this
the
till
motion to
February.
Table it till February 15th.
Have a second,
I'll second.
your first and second, all in favor, I'm saying
Aye.
aye. Aye. Any opposed? Yes, third,
Feel free to give me a call next week.
Yeah, sure.
bring donuts next time.
What's that?
He
said bring donuts.
Donuts.
I'm kidding.
Just nighttime.
Seriously.
I'd like to discuss the steps. As I look at your plan, I think I get where you're going, but
Yeah, well, there's just a question on is it steps that follows the route? Or is it sidewalk, and how does that play?
You
in?
say it was February.
that's exactly what I wanted to.
I want to talk to Ty about
Thursday.
We have
There's a
we have examples here.
possibility. I might not.
it in town.
I don't know. My daughter's having a
There's some
baby
examples.
out in
Yeah.
Los Angeles, and I don't know when.
What is it?
This will all sound. I didn't know. Allison. Have a boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week.
Pretty
There's
exciting.
some pretty interesting things people have done.
Yeah.
And that table was for both, for both.
We probably need to
Table the other one as well,
make a
since we got a motion to table.
Yes,
First
I
move.
make a motion that we table case number 2023 B22 until the February 15th meeting.
All in favor?
Aye. Second.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Moving right along, petition 2023 B20, 760 West Shore Drive,
That's tabled.
and that was tabled to February, I just now saw that.
So just a note on that, I've tried to reach out by phone and also send a letter to Diane Hanson. I haven't got a response yet from her on exactly what she wants to do with that.
'Cause I know
Like
there
she wants
was,
to make, there's a possibility of making some significant changes, as well as with that was also the impervious surface was a big
big
concern.
issue. Yeah,
We had that drive, we had
the rock
that rock driveway.
driveway or parking area, I should say, yeah.
Parking.
So that one is not till February. All right, new business. We didn't ask for any breakfast table, did we? Okay, new business, any new business other than you guys are gonna have to put up with me for a while?
Go for a long time.
All right, so
Vice Chair.
building commissioners report.
I don't have that with me tonight. I have one prepared. I'll email it to you all. It'll be the same one I present to the meeting later this month for the town council.
Next meeting, 6:30 PM, Thursday, February 15th. If there's no other thing from the audience, anything anybody wants to bring up, we don't have citizen input on this, but I always like to have the citizen input at any time. Might ask that that be put on our agenda every meeting.
There's still people all online.
Anybody want to comment on anything before we adjourn?
I don't hear anybody or see any raised hands.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion at this time to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And a second, all in favor?
Aye.
I need my gavel.
Right.